Hi, welcome to another edition of Pauline Interviews. I'm here at New Renaissance Bookstore again. They allow us to use this wonderful event center to do our interviews, and I want to promote them a little bit. It's a great place. It's on Northwest 23rd. If you're interested in anything alternative healing or metaphysical, this is the place to come. We do most of our interviews here, and I get so many great ideas. You can come here and hear people do lectures and workshops, so check it out, okay? And today I've got Jane Roberts with me, and Jane is a certified advanced hand analyst. And Jane, what does that mean? What is it? A certified advanced hand analyst. And thanks for being here, by the way.
Thanks for having me here today on that. What that means is I've had a lot of school. I've gone to school for a good many years.
How many?
On that. Well, I have taken 8 years worth of classes when you put them all together. Yeah.
Where do you study?
Well, I first started studying through the International Institute of Hand Analysis, and I have studied with a few of their teachers from there.
Now, in case a person doesn't know what hand analyst is, because they're a grapho analyst, which tell you about your handwriting. Hand analyst tells you about your hand, which some people might call palm reading.
Yes.
Is there a difference between palm reading and hand analyst?
Well, a hand analyst really brings in the fingerprint patterns. And so analyzing those fingerprint patterns and analyzing the lines, it's a bit of a different system. A lot of people refer to me as a palm reader, but there seems to be that flavor of old-time palmistry of, oh my gosh, you're going to tell me all the bad things that have happened, you're going to tell me when I died, I want to know how many kids I'm going to have. More of a prediction. And hand analysis is really not. It's more scientific based. It's like the handwriting analysis, just like you were saying. There are certain rules. Yes, there are that follow that.
Now, when I was researching to do the interview, I noticed a quote, and I think it's on your website. It said, and I like this quote. It's by a Navajo. It's a Navajo saying, "The Great Spirit breathes in the breath of life, and the track of that breath becomes our fingerprints."
Yes. Yes.
What does that mean?
You'd have to ask him.
Yeah. So in other words, I interpret it as it means that this is not only who I am, but it's my body, mind, and spirit.
Yes, yes. The belief is that when spirit entered your body approximately 5 months before you were born, it left its marks on your fingertips as your fingerprint patterns. It's like it becomes like a map of your soul. It's your owner's manual. It's how do you as an individual work? You know, what are your motivations? What are you inspired by? You know, what calls do you to do? What makes you tick? What makes you go ah? So it's very individualized. But so I guess maybe what he meant was when you came in here with your fingerprint patterns, it's who you've evolved as a soul, I guess.
See, I was thinking before I met you, I was thinking of, you're looking at my palm, you're looking at my lifeline, and I mistakenly thought the lifeline is how long you live, but it's not.
In old palmistry, that is what they believed in on that. But the system that I follow, no, it's about how well grounded are you? What's your family life like?
That's the lifeline.
Yes.
Yeah.
Family life and being stable, secure.
And what are the other lines in your hand?
Well, the other main, oh boy, they can be over 1,000 markers in a hand. But the main ones are the lifeline.
The lifeline.
And then there is a headline talking about how you process information that you take in, and your heart line. How do you emotionally take in information? How do you process emotionally? What are your emotional needs?
And how is this going to help you by reading them?
Well, a lot of people feel stuck or confused. Sometimes they beat themselves up on a certain trait that they have, or feel guilty about wanting certain things. And I like going over the hands, going over everything to really help people understand this is you. This is the authentic you, and not to be afraid of those things. It's a self-assessment tool to help people better understand themselves. And when you know yourself, that is knowledge. And then you can become yourself, and that's where your greatness comes from.
You know, I'm glad you said this, because we did a little demonstration of how you do this, and you set it up, so we're going to go now to that demonstration.
Well, Marie, thank you for joining me today to get your hands analyzed, your fingerprint patterns analyzed. I find that when we print the hands on paper, there's oftentimes lines that show up that don't normally show up, or that you can't really see that well when you look at the hands with your naked eye. So we're going to print your hands up, put them on paper, and then we can proceed with the reading on this, all right?
Okay, great.
So,
I'm excited.
It's water-based, easy on, easy off, not a problem. So we are just going to get this going. Now, what's really fascinating about the hands, the main work here is the fingerprint patterns. Even though I'm doing the whole hand, why don't you relax? Oh, there you go. Total relax. But the fingerprint patterns are what's most intriguing. They tell you the most here in regards to the fingerprint patterns were formed 5 months before you were born.
Oh my goodness.
5 months before you were born. Before your organs were complete, your fingerprint patterns were. And they never change. That's why the IRS actually uses them. Or the FBI. Oh boy, okay. The FBI uses them. All right, now I want you to relax, because there's a spot in here that's hard to get to on that. All right, so what I want you to do is, I just want you just to put that hand right down on that paper.
Flat?
Just flat, boom, marvelous. Now I want you to relax, and I want you to take a great big deep breath in and release it. Very nice, very nice. I felt it go down. All right, now I want you to flip your hand over, and the paper's going to be stuck to it, and I want that to happen. So just flip your hand over. Ooh, look at that. Look at that.
Wow.
Look at that. All those lines, everything.
Impressive.
Ooh. All right, Marie, so now we have your prints, and we have looked at your fingerprint patterns. And again, your fingerprint patterns are the most important thing here. They are formed 5 months before you're born, and they never change. They say that when spirit entered your body, that it left its mark on your fingertips, never to change. And so this actually becomes a map of your soul. It's your owner's manual. It's how you as an individual works. What makes you work? What makes you tick? What what your motivations are, which is just so important to know things on a soul level. And then we integrate all the lines in the hands to tell us what your behaviors are and what your belief systems are. And then we can look at that and see how does that interact? How does your behaviors and your beliefs interact with what your soul's intentions are on that one? So, all right. So I want to look at some of the lines in the hands right now. And one of the things that I see, actually a couple of things that I see on your hands, one of them is how you get things done. I mean, you get things done, but sometimes you hit a wall. Sometimes you hit that wall and it's hard to get through it. So I want to talk to you about what that is. Everyone who arrives here on Earth has to go through Earth University. It's a school. It is, what are you here to learn? What are you specifically here to learn in this lifetime to help you? With your purpose and your lesson. I like to think of it as, I guess, if you came here to be a carpenter, you would need to know, what do you do with the nails? What do you do with the hammer? You know, how do I do this? It's like that knowledge to be able to perform being a carpenter, all right? So in your particular case, you are here in the school of wisdom. You have a lot of tenet arches. You have 6 tenet arches, and I do want to mention that tenet arches, you only see about 3% of the population having those. So you don't see a whole lot of people having them on that. But because you have so many, it puts you in the school of wisdom. So you are here to learn. One thing I always like telling the people in the school of wisdom is that you have the permission to change your mind. When you make a decision, you need to base it on the facts that you have in hand. And when those facts change tomorrow, next week, next year, you change with that. It's not like you're locked into that and you're going to be judged by, you know, what decision you made on that one. You have permission to change your mind, just like things in life. Thank goodness. What we wanted at 20 is not the same as what we want now. So there you go on that. But you're here in the School of Wisdom.
And does that have anything to do with learning empathy and feeling when you have wisdom?
Do you know what? In a roundabout way, it does. Because people who are in the School of Wisdom, when they take in information, they take it in through the mind. So your mind reacts to, well, your mind is, what it does is it processes the facts, and it spits back to you what is logical and what is fact-based. Those what the decisions are, you know, that is how it does. So how do you get empathy and compassion and so forth in your mind? It's hard to feel that. It's hard to feel with your heart when you're in your mind on that. And people who are in the School of Wisdom have so much respect for their mind. It's so powerful that it's sometimes hard to try to bypass that and feel things, especially when your mind tells you how to feel it, which really isn't feeling it. So I could see where some people would think it's harder to grasp those other emotions, but it just means more time for you to go deeper, more time for you to deal with that on that. So, you know, that's all we have time for today.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, I'd love to go farther into what your life purpose is and how you're here to inspire and empower others to grow. But anyway, that's all the time for today.
Okay,
So we'll
thank
wrap
you
this
so
up
much,
now.
Jane.
Thank you, Marie.
Very revealing. Thank you.
Good.
Well, that was very interesting. So I'm just fascinated because, like I said, I thought hand reading was you're looking at your lines. I didn't know that you went ahead and you put the person's ink in hand and you can read the lines better.
Yes.
And I noticed Marie was agreeing with you, the things you told her. So that just blows me away. So when you look at the hands, you look at the hands. I look in the book and you look at, we didn't do this today, but you look at the shape of the fingernails. What other things do you look at?
Do you know, I'll tell you, I look at the shape of the hand, which tells you a lot about your basic personality.
Can you tell by looking at my hand?
Turn it around the other way on that one. No, straight at me.
Oh, straight at you.
There, on that one. You, you actually have a combination shape on that.
I do?
Yes, you do.
I could make up my mind.
Boy, there's a good part of you that
If this is confusing you, we can do a whole interview
you know
on
what?
this.
I am much better when, and that's another reason why I print. When I print,
it's hard.
I really
I
can
don't want to
see
put you on the
that
spot.
on there, and that's why I do print. A lot of times you can be looking at a hand, and some people have very light lines, so it's really hard to see where they start and where they stop. Some people have very deep lines.
That's what I'm looking at
very,
here.
Very clear on that one. And you have a combination of both. Do you see some of those are deep
Well, I
and
thought-
a lot of little tiny feathered lines?
Well, I thought they were deep because I was getting older. You don't get more wrinkles in your hands as you get older, is it?
You know what? I myself see
I know this
wrinkles in
side
my
you do,
hand on that. Yeah.
but-
As a matter of fact, turn your hand around on the other way on that one. It appears to me like you do very well when you have things organized.
That's right. I've got all my questions organized here.
You are someone who you just
Yeah, I like
work
to be
better on
organized.
that one, yes.
I like to get everything
So,
organized.
so you can look at knuckles. That tells me
Oh.
on organization. That's what hit me off on that.
Knuckles.
I look at different, there's the different
Oh.
zones in the fingers, depending on is one longer, is one fatter, is one thinner.
Wow.
The length of the hand, the width of the hand, the actual type of lines. Is there a lot of lines? Are there little lines? There's different markers in different areas of your hands. You've got your moon and Pluto and Mars and Venus.
I don't
and
understand that.
Jupiter.
I saw that. What does the planets have to do with your hands? I don't. Is that just a way of identifying?
Do you know what? You would have to ask Richard Under, who put this together on that, because in the beginning of those classes, I was just trying to take it in. But, you know, in identifying, like with Jupiter, the one finger, and things that appear on this finger, different markers that are on there, are about a person of influence, about leadership, you know, about taking charge, which is like Jupiter.
Yeah.
And then you've got Saturn,
Yeah.
and, you know, responsibility. They all seem to follow the
I understand now.
Yeah.
Do you have Mercury in your hand? Because
Yes,
isn't
yes.
Mercury changeable? Isn't it mercurial? Is somebody who's got Mercury, isn't that kind of a person who changes, goes back and forth, or am I wrong?
You know, you may be right on that. I'm more familiar with it being about communication.
Oh, okay.
Communication and trust. And,
I know,
you
when Mercury's in retrograde, communication goes out the window.
Oh, yes.
Aren't we? I think Mercury is retrograde now.
I think it just went back.
Oh, yay.
But
Good.
you know what? I have a hard time staying exactly on top of
Now,
that.
one of
So-
the questions I had, I think you answered in the demonstration. I was going to say, do the lines tell you anything about a person's wishes and desires? Anything about their soul purpose? And I think with Marie, you told a little bit about her.
Yes, but that had to do with her fingerprint patterns.
Okay.
Your soul purpose, your lessons, and what you're here to learn, your school, as we call
Right.
it. Those all have to do with the fingerprint patterns on that. I mean, that's your soul's intention, that yearning for things on that. And the lines in the hands really are more about your belief system and your behaviors, more of your personality. That is why the lines in your hands can change.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yes.
I was just going to say that. If it's your personality and your beliefs change.
Yes.
Your personality changes. So I figured the hands in your lines have to change.
Yes.
Because what good is it if you stayed the same from the time you were born?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, we answered a lot of these questions. How many prominent lines in your hands? In the book I read, it said 3 to 5, but you said there are some prominent ones, but there are a lot of little feathery ones. What are some of the little feathery ones? Do you know?
Feathery ones on that
Or
one.
the little
Boy, oh boy,
guys.
looking down here,
Yeah.
and
Boy.
well, you know, they're what we call gift markers. There are certain gifts that you have, and they show up usually as stars
Oh,
in
really?
the hands. Not all stars are gift markers, but the majority of them are on that. So yeah, if there is a star under Mercury, there's a message that you have that is needed to get out. If there's a star under Apollo, it's about the creative talents that you have.
How else can we find, if we don't go to see somebody like you, how do we find out about these? Is there another way to find out? I think your intuition.
Exactly right. There's no other way but through
reading
people
your
who do
palms.
that. You know, a lot of people go through self-discovery and know
Yes.
themselves quite well without going through any of this on that. And there's other people who like guidance where there's confusion, such as some people will have a shape and lines in one hand and have a totally different in another hand.
What is, now that you said that, what's the difference between the right and the left hand?
All right, the right hand is how you interact out in the world, how the world sees you, how you perceive the world.
Okay.
It's like your outer world. And the left hand is how you act, or how you interact with yourself, or your inner tribe, your family.
Okay.
It's the close. So there's like inner world and outer world.
Then that makes sense to me, that they can be different.
Yeah, be completely different. I don't know if you've ever experienced where you work with someone maybe, and all of a sudden you see them the first time socially, and they're like, oh my goodness, that's night and day. That's not how they are at work. Or just the opposite, that person who, no matter what situation, no matter where they're at, no matter what is going on, they are the same. Mirrored images is how I look at that, on that,
That's interesting.
It's very, so people who might have, let's say, and I've encountered this, where people have had two different hands. And they become very confused on, I don't understand why 1 minute I'm this way and the next minute I'm opposite, and it's confusing. Is there something wrong with me on that? I love being able to help them and understanding and breaking it down when these, you know, when you're in your inner world and your outer world, and noticing that it changes during those. And the person's not crazy. It's just who they are on that one.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that led me to another question. Who do you see? Like, who would come to you for help, for guidance, I should say?
A lot of people who feel stuck. A lot of people who feel stuck, you know, on having a certain reoccurring issue. Why does this always come up? And I actually love those, is because I can really get into seeing what they're here to learn. And so what kind of circumstances are going to come to them to learn that. And so that they can take these situations where they want to pull the covers over their head and actually look at it and say, bring it on. You know what I mean? I get it now. Let's move forward.
Yeah. Now, you're not a psychologist, but
No.
but this is scientific.
Yes.
It's scientific.
Yes.
So it's just a different way of learning and helping people. That's great.
Yes. I actually I did a birthday party for an 18-year-old recently, and she had a large group there, and being able to work with young kids.
Oh, can you
really identify, you know, a lot of their talents. A lot of them were way on top of it and knew exactly where they were going. And some it was just, wow, I never thought of it this way or that way, and be able to get more of a grasp on themselves, and where they're being able to help them identify where their weak links are and where their strengths are. I love that.
I like this. I thought, to me, one of the most important things is to identify, hopefully when you're younger. Like, I know my passion now. It was always in me, but a little later in life I'm doing it. I always thought it's so important for a person to learn what their passion is when they're young, so that they're going to do this for their lives.
Yes.
They can change, but if you're happy in your work, you're a happy person, you make the world happier. But if you're miserable in your work and your life, you make the world miserable. So, you know, people like you that help direct people to their passions and their talents, I think that's a wonderful thing you do.
Yes.
Can you, before we go, because I want to interview you again, and I don't want to make it too long, but I want to talk to you more, so maybe we'll do it another time. But now I forgot what I was going to ask you. But, oh yeah, can you give us a little example of maybe, without using anybody's name, of an interesting person that came to you with some kind of issue and how you were able to help them?
Well, yes. One pops to mind right now, and that was the person that I read. They happened to have a star under their Mercury, and they also had lines of genius, meaning that just another marker of basically saying that I have a message that needs to get out to the masses. And this person had felt that, like, I need, you know, I need to bring this out. Yeah, but they were hung up on, who's going to listen to me? No one's going to listen to me. I can't do that. Who do I think I am? I'm not talented. And we ended up being able to uncover that her life lesson was, does anybody hear me? Am I important enough for someone to hear what I have to say? And when we uncovered what her lesson was, her challenges, along with what her purpose was, she was really able to grapple with that more and realize, oh my goodness, you know, I've got some hurdles to go over, but I do have that message, and I am going to get that out, even though it's going to maybe a lot of effort in getting over obstacles, and talking about what kind of circumstances are going to come to help her better learn how to get over these things, so that she can get to where she needs to be. She cried. I mean, she was just...
Was it done in one session?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Do you usually have people one session or more?
Sometimes I get people who have extremely complicated fingerprint patterns, and it seems like they have more than one level of lessons, or it's just more convoluted. It's just more, and so it's almost like you got to go layer to layer to layer sometimes. And sometimes people have one finger purpose, one finger lesson, and you know what I mean. It's simpler.
We're open-minded. So do you think some of these, did they carry the lines from previous lifetimes?
Do you know, I on a personal level think, how could they not? You know, because why are some lives so complicated? And
Yeah, that's
others
what I
are
was
not?
wondering. We said
You
some have
know?
few and some have loads.
So I think
Yeah.
that a lot of stuff is brought
Yeah.
in. I do think that there's karma involved
Yeah.
here on that. And then there's another part of me that believes that if we want to advance spiritually, are sometimes we not saying, hey, I'll take on a full plate if I can advance.
Subconsciously or, spiritually you know that, but consciously you go, what the heck is going on here?
I often say to people on that one, why did you ask for that?
Yeah. And they don't realize that, do they, consciously? Or
No,
no?
no, a lot don't.
I can tell you have such a passion, so much fun to interview
I
you.
do.
Can I ask you one question before we go? What's that you're wearing around your neck? Oh, it's a hand.
You know, I have a very special story about this.
We have time.
It was one of my very first readings that I did at the New Renaissance bookstore. All right, one of the very, very first readings. And the woman paid me for a half-an-hour reading. She paid me. It was all done on that. She was so moved by the reading on how much it moved her on being able to see a perspective on her life on that, that she went home and made this. She went home and she made this
wonderful.
and brought it back to me to say thank you on what I had done for her.
That is so sweet.
As,
I can tell that means a lot to you because your email is hands talk to me. I love it. And so people get a hold of you through your email,
Yes.
through your website, and
yes,
different things. That's
yes.
great.
And I work at the New Renaissance.
And the New Renaissance.
I do different fairs and stuff. I just came
do.
back from the Emerald Spiral Fair up in Tacoma. So I go around.
And I mentioned New Renaissance, and the people, they're wonderful people like you that come here and do lectures and workshops, and so they can just check that out.
Yes,
I've got to interview you again, so I'll let you go today because we spent a lot of time with you, and I appreciate your time and the work you're doing. It's amazing. It's really interesting. I learned a lot today. Thank you so much,
Thank you, Pauline.
Jane.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I just want to thank my viewing audience. Thank you for watching another edition of Pauline Interviews.